Welcome to the Fantasy Take TV podcast for round 3. A huge week this week. We got a lot of stuff on the agenda. We're going to speak about our starting teams, how important value was, much more important than last year and years before. We'll speak about some def primos that not super happy about, but important to talk about. Midfield upgrade targets, who the top 6 forwards are. I think have a really solid idea at the moment as who, strong candidates for top 6. Speak about rookies, captains, and we have the Twitter question and answer to go through. Plenty to get through today. Got the two usuals with us today, Eno and JD. Eno, how you going, and how did you go this week?
Look, I thought I went better than it actually turned out to be, which I think was the same for a lot of us. But 21-33, so dropped down a bit. I think about 4,000 spots to about 12,000, but still round 3, and there's a lot of it's really bunched still. I think 100 points less, and I'm like 20k. So it's always the case early rounds, but still okay with where the side's at. There's a few big anti-pods that I'll be sweating for the next 2 months, but yeah, maybe you guys can talk me into getting one of them, but we'll see.
JD, what's happening?
21.72 for this week for me, moving up 500 spots. That makes it 2 weeks in a row that I've led the three of us, which, I'm sure you boys are both keeping track of that, but that does put me up to 2-2. Who won week 1? It must have been Eno. George, you got some work to do from the back of the pack. How was your week?
Well, I traded in a wingman for 700k.
That's never good. Shouldn't have started that wingman, should we?
Whatever. I traded in 2015 Aaron Holt, it seems, and I captained the first player in history to get tagged twice in the same game.
By 2 people.
I scored 2,055. Stuffed up my rookies as well on the field, but bad week. Not too. I think only 300 points behind the top 1K, which is not great this early, but it's attainable long term. Yeah, so see how we go. But ranked 33k at the moment, not great at all, but still early, and I think it'll even out hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks, and then we'll get a better idea of where we are at.
I must say, like Leon Cameron figured out that we stopped picking GWS players because we knew that he would stuff around with them and it would scrap our fantasy teams. So he came up with a new strategy to screw us over in Supercoach, which was to invent the double tagger role. So I mean, you got to give props where props is due. Leon Cameron is thorn in the side for another year.
I just hope they get a new coach. Anyway.
Oh, don't worry. It'll happen. It's coming.
Okay, so we'll move on. So the first topic of today is talking about value picks and how important they've been. So one of the reasons why a lot of people that did well last year, playing a little bit more of a conservative style, if you didn't land, especially you didn't start Cripps, Sicily's been good for his price. Heaney's been great. Tim English, if you went Gawn and Grundy, you're most likely behind. So, all of our pre-existing beliefs of, playing a little bit on the conservative side. And I thought I was starting Heaney and Hewitt, and I'm thinking this is a huge risk. Like, I'm picking 2 players that, weren't premiums last year. And I was 3 value picks short of what the team should have been. So start with you, how do you feel about your team? Like, you don't have Cripps. How do you feel about that? Just the whole not having enough value potentially.
Yeah, I mean, same as you thought that it was going into the season with enough. Throw in Rioli as well. We all, had to start him. Had Hewitt, of course, but I think the big ones, the cheap R2. I know I've been carrying a green ogre for 3 weeks and haven't got him on the field. Gawn and Grundy, as you said, are probably a bit behind. But the Wits, like I know JD's got Wits, and obviously I think the big one is Cripps. Obviously, you didn't have him, you were behind. But the cheap R2 save a lot of value there, and probably ensured that you got a Cripps or a Hewitt or all of them. So, obviously a few value picks short, but doesn't mean we can't catch up. I'm just going to focus on cash gen, ensure that I get enough of that, and then once upgrade season starts, just start smashing out the boosts and try to catch up that way and get to a finish team as quick as possible. But of course, it's going to be playing catch up against those people for the next 20 weeks really.
How do you feel about playing catch up? I mean, JD, you're in a good spot. You got Wits R2, but no English, for example. Like, how do you feel trying to make your way up the ranks over the next few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like my team finally kind of got leveled out with others this week because I didn't have Hewitt and I didn't have Cripps. So I brought both of those in, and it's like, okay, I'm kind of at a level playing field now. But then other teams were correcting stuff and either got in English or Heaney or someone like that. So it still feels like I'm a value pick behind, which is pretty worrying because I think, not only did I lose out points and potentially some cash over the first couple of weeks, but yeah, I'm maybe still like a value pick behind others. So I think at this point, like just trying to trade my way to catch up to them isn't going to work. I have to, back my picks in from here until upgrade season and hope that I can catch and beat some of those other teams as we start to upgrade and find value and better picks through that part of the game. Because while it's not disastrous where we're placed at the moment, it definitely feels like, I can't do anything more to catch up now. We have to wait until things happen throughout the year for us to get an opportunity to really climb the ranks again.
Yeah, so I think the pathway to catch up is having really strong bench cash generation. I know a few people might have a few weaker picks, might be still carrying an Owens or something. The buy rounds will be important this year, and saving trades if you can. So I think those are probably the pathways. And then, trading. There's a lot of safe options that we can trade into this year. It's probably about not deviating from them, but also seeing what opportunities present at certain prices. So a few players might be getting TPP. We'll speak about that later in the podcast. So we'll move on to the defenders. So a few defenders underperformed this week. It is round 3, so it's probably arguably too late to trade out of them. I think it's very much about holding trades now unless you need a Nick Martin, for example, holding trades until upgrade season in about 3 weeks or so. So Jack Crisp, we watched on the weekend, was tracking for about a 70 score. Got some nice scaling and last 5 minutes did a bit of work up to the 85. So I brought this up in my video. Out of 47 center clearances, he has 2 center clearances in the first 3 rounds. I think his CBAs were about 50% again. I think he moved a halfback mostly in the third quarter, which was when they were on top. I know, JD, you are a fellow Crisp owner. A very happy one, right?
Well, but just miserable.
How do we feel about Crisp going forward?
So I don't think it's bad enough that you have to trade him. Like, he's not a priority trade or anything like that. But it is someone we need to keep a close eye on and kind of see how this midfield shakes out over the next couple of weeks, with the eye that maybe Crisp is someone we need to upgrade later if we do have luxury trades. I think what was interesting just looking at the CBA data is he was still kind of keeping consistent. So 55, 54 over the first 2, dropped a little bit to 50. And they had Pendles actually taking more CBAs this week. So I'm thinking with Dacos and potentially Pendlebury taking more midfield CBAs, we'll see Crisp rotating into the back line a little bit more, which I think will help him. But yeah, to your point, George, this week, like when the ball was up in their forward half, I think in the third quarter this week when they made the big challenge, he was in the back line. So it's just kind of unfortunate a little bit that when they swapped him around in different positions, he just wasn't near the ball. But yeah, I'm not loving owning him at the moment. And if I could swap him for Stewart or Hall for free this week, I absolutely would.
Yeah, I think we just got to ride this one out. I think it'll be judging by people who owned Crisp last year, it's a bit of a roller coaster every week where he somehow salvages a score every week. So hopefully that's the case for us. So I think we'll move on to the next one. Lockie Whitfield. Yeah, head count. Who moved on Whitfield this week? I did. You did,
No, I kept him. I held.
Okay, so he scored the 95. I tried to make 96.
Pay the man.
How about that? I don't think his role is good, to be honest.
No.
There is a Big 40 rumor, our favorite website, that he's carrying something. Someone shared it in the Discord.
No, I don't think he is.
Okay,
he's still leading distance.
Big 40 never lost.
Yeah,
facts.
It's on the Rushmore. It's on the Rushmore. So Whitfield is still covering the most distance, most repeat efforts, like running at the highest speed for GWS, these types of things. If he's carrying an injury, it just seems weird because it's not showing up in any of the running data. And it's not like they're putting him in a position where they're hiding him if he's carrying something. He's still up around the ball being used to like in link up play. So I think the likelihood that he's carrying a serious injury is pretty low. I wouldn't be surprised if he was carrying a niggle, but a few rounds in, a lot of players are starting to carry niggles. I just think that the role that they're using him in isn't as good as what we've seen in the past, and he's averaging at least 5 touches a game below what we kind of need him to be a premium scorer.
Yeah, it's like 20 instead of 25, which just kills a bit of the upside. So, yeah, I still think he'll be okay. Average like 95 to 100, but, we're all thinking 110 he could get back to at this stage. I don't think it's looking like that, to be honest. So I'm pretty okay with the trade out. How do you feel about it, Jorts?
I'm happy I traded. I think it's I'm not seeing him being a top 6 or 8 defender unless his role changes. So, hypothetical, he drops to 70 next week. JD, you chilling or what are you doing?
We're getting pretty scared if he drops another 70, just because the money that he starts bleeding is pretty horrendous too. I think the problem is that there's not really a good trade for him at the moment, just because he's 476k. Unless you've got big bank, who is he going to realistically?
I think at that price it's Sicily, and you might not be happy with him because he played on Kerno for a while. Not happy with Sicily. Yeah, okay.
No. So I mean, Sinclair's like 22k more, maybe someone like that. But realistically, I think you kind of have to hold him until I don't even know. I mean, maybe there's a midfield mid price you can get for under that.
Yeah, I was going to say DPP, make some swings or something, get a forward. I don't know.
Yeah,
Dan Rioli. Don't know. I think we'll maybe cross that bridge when it comes, if it does come. I'm still worried about him, but it's still Whitfield. He's a superstar, so should be anyway.
I think as long as he continues to put out, say he averages around 90 from here, it's obviously bad and a failed trade, but you can kind of just hold him until you get a chance to upgrade him later. I think if we see more 70s, though, that's a real concern because the cash you're going to lose is too much.
Yeah. So move on to the next play. Sinclair's been really good this year. So had a really strong back half of last year, starting to be used more in the midfield. And we're seeing it with, Gresham and Sinclair in that midfield is really helping them a lot. Is Sinclair, for me, it's slightly on the speculative side. He looks good. Just became a really solid player last year. And, I think he's 27, 28. He's not exactly super young. So, but yeah, starting to come into his own at the moment. So is Sinclair a player that you possibly are looking at? Do you feel confident enough in him or you're still not sure?
I didn't realize he was 27. Yeah. Look, he's had a great start, 3 tons in a row. Fair play if you picked him. It's just we don't, personally need to be looking at someone kind of speculative like that. Like Hunter Clark, is he 2 to 4 weeks away? Wonder how he affects him because they're probably candidates to rotate with each other, half back to midfield. So, I agree. That gives him a new look, like him and Gresham, more dynamic, bit of pace, heading inside 50. So it's definitely worked. He's coming into his own, but I just don't see the need to sort of target someone that's a little bit speculative like that when we have a couple of other proven options that are probably going to be more affordable, around upgrade time.
Similar for you, JD? It's tricky. Just I don't like picking the 8th year breakout. Same reason why I didn't love picking, Crisp as someone going into the midfield in his whatever it was year. Sinclair has got problems in the sense that he's also very versatile. So they've used him as a small forward, winger in the back line. And it seems like he can be a bit of a Mr. Fix-It. Same reason why Dan Houston is always a bit of a risky pick because you just don't know what his role is going to be week to week. This year so far, Sinclair's had pretty good CBAs, more so than his last couple of years. So 32, 71, and 51 over the first 3 weeks. So that midfield role is good. It's just really hard to know if this is going to be the continued game plan going forward, especially with a couple of players that you mentioned, such as Hunter Clark, potentially returning. So it's of the cheaper options. I still like him more than the others at sub 500k, but it's not necessarily one that I'd be bending over backwards to bring in now, especially when you've got probably better value forwards that are under that price mark.
Yeah. Zach Jones as well. I just don't know what the timeline is on him, but yeah, he's out as well.
Okay. I think you raised some good points there. So just quickly on Aaron Holt, scored a 70. That's his worst score since being in this new role. Still had 25 touches, 86 fantasy, just 7 clangers. I think he just had a bad game. I think he was probably a victim of North just not being able to move the ball at all, could not control the ball at all. Not worried. Just the only thing I'm worried about is how bad North were. That was something else, that performance. So yeah, I'm not alarmed just yet. I just worried about North. He scored well in losses. So look, this is his own second sub-ton in the role. I think he'll be fine. So not too worried at this point. Would any of you be concerned about Aaron Hall given North's performance?
Not particularly. Like, you'd think that benefits him with that many points getting kicked and ball in the back line. As you said, they just couldn't move it. Probably had no one to kick to, no one making good enough leads. Because you know what he likes to do, take the game on, hit some hard kicks. So he probably just was trying to chew them off and they were just getting picked off every time.
Yeah, that's what happened. Exactly what happened, yeah.
But I guess that could continue to happen if they're this insipid again. But yeah. Kicked a goal too, and it's only scored 70, so it's a little concerning, Yeah,
I think it's a blip on the radar more than a trend for now. But yeah, how bad North was pretty concerning. I think the other thing as well, which I don't know if it's just because there was pressure in the forward line, but it seemed to be less of the kick to kick, where you'd have Zeeble, Hall, McDonald kind of all just kicking it to each other through the back line, switching sides and then exiting. So I don't know, maybe there's a few less points happening through that, but that also just could be because of how bad North was and how much pressure they were under, that they never really had that chance to set up and do what they normally do in defense. So yeah, no reason to panic at the moment or anything like that, but just a couple of things to keep an eye on if you are an owner or someone that wants to trade him in.
Yep. Next player is James Sicily. So he's had it really big, I think last quarter. JD not happy with this one. I still don't mind Sicily. I think we did see a very small stint of forward time. And he was playing, they switched him to Kerno. So it's very much sometimes he's key position, sometimes he third tall. I don't know if Kerno did nothing in the second half when they switched Sicily onto him. So I think there will be a down game coming from Sicily, but they still use him a little bit out the back, and the Scrimshaw is down. So I think JD's no on this one. So, would you still like Sicily as a pick, or do you like him at all as a pick?
I like Sicily. I just I have other defenders ahead of him. Of course, the value was good from round one if you started him. I just don't think he's someone to target, as in bring him in. Do you know what I mean? Like, we know what his attributes are. He's great kick, can mark overhead, but yeah, the lockdown might just bring some bad scores here and there. So I definitely see one of them coming. Not someone you want to target. Not someone I want to target. Of course, he's cheap, so maybe I think we were speaking about Whitfield. If you're unhappy with him, he might be the trade-off in a couple of weeks if he's still performing badly. But yeah, not really going to be targeting Sicily this year, I don't think.
All right, so Sicily's priced at 98 after 3 games. Do you think he averages more or less than that from here to the end of the year?
I had him, I think, 95 to 100, so I think it's about that.
Yeah, so
I think he averages what he is now. Yeah,
98 is just not exciting enough that you'd want to trade him into your side. If you started him, it's okay. But yeah, I just can't see sidewaysing someone like Whitfield to him making a lot of sense at the moment, just because you're going to have exactly what you spoke about, like the variance in the games, where I think you might get the game where he goes 120, 130, where he has the right role. He's not required to do defensive duties. He can just pick off intercepts and chip the ball around the back line. But then you're going to have other games where he gets swapped forward, which happened in the fourth of this. He has to play lockdown on someone because a CJ or someone can't, and he'll drop a 60 as well. And it's just I just don't think it's that exciting of a trade-in option now.
Fair enough. Last player we have here, also forward, is Dan Rioli. This is from your team, so maybe you can take this one. He was 85 average without Hooley last year in the last few games. Do you think he can keep up 96 average?
Maybe not 96, but I don't see why he can't average 90. Like, I think, obviously you had to start this pick again. So if it's, it's gone at this point, but he's been pretty good. He runs with the footy. Ahead, behind the ball, he can see what's ahead of him in the field and pick out these kicks, whereas he was just sort of, in really bad form over the last 2 years as a forward. So I think the move's been good for him. I know we're not speaking about him, and even Hugo looked pretty good too. So Voston's got to come back. So I think obviously Hugo's probably the one to make way at this point. So yeah, if you have Rioli, fair enough. I keep holding on to him until he maybe drops a poor score because peaks at his price. I haven't looked at the price. I don't know what he might be able to make, maybe 130k or something like that, maybe 150. But yeah, I've liked what I've seen from him. Nah, it's not worth a bring in. It's not worth a trade in, put it that way.
Yeah. I think we'll move on now to midfielders. So I think given this year probably a lot of us went 2 Ubers, some went 1, some went 3, but still we need to it looks like most teams need to get a primo mid, get that extra captain option in. Is there anyone in particular, start with JD, that you're targeting? Because we know that, Brayshaw might cop the Lockie Ash tag. One of Petrarca or Oliver in round 5 could cop the Lockie Ash tag. Is anyone in particular you're looking to bring in, or just is price going to be a factor for you, the main factor?
Yeah, as I kind of mentioned, I've got to find value, I think, through other ways. So I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on price as well as scoring. So yeah, Brayshaw, as you mentioned, probably going to get another tag this week, off a tag already, might get pretty cheap. Parrish has had a pretty poor start. That might be someone you can look at as Essendon's fixture starts to open up a little bit more compared to the first few. And then I think, George, you were talking about Petrarca and Oliver potentially getting one of them getting tagged next week. Petrarca obviously had a poor game this week as well. So yeah, maybe one of them gets cheap, and they've obviously shown the premium scores in the past. So yeah, for me, this week in particular, I think what score they drop is going to matter a lot, because not only will it decrease their price pretty heavily this week, but then it'll also play a role next week, and that's about the time we're looking for our first upgrade. So yeah, anyone that's scored poorly, I guess this week or the week upcoming are the ones I'm going to be targeting. Like a left field option would be Callum Mills as well, who dropped just the 70 on the weekend. So yeah, there's, I think, going to be a few good options. Walsh, I was hoping was going to be one of them, but he backed up a poor game with a very good one on the weekend. So don't think we're going to get him much cheaper than what he's currently priced at.
Walsh is a weird one because he didn't get a lot of time in the midfield and still scored really, really well.
Yeah.
I think Chera was shafted the most out of the 5.
I think Walsh had leaving. Oh yeah, I think he was too. But Walsh is still very low CBAs as well.
Yeah,
from memory. So, I mean, he can find the ball anywhere. It's not really too much of an issue.
Just quickly, when he played mostly wing when Walsh played mostly wing in 2020, he was 120 average in the back half. Just like that. So go on.
Yeah, well, and can do this year they've got even better extractors to help him in that position as well. So I think he can do a kind of elite scoring anyway. But what's happened with the Carlton midfielders, somewhat what we predicted, right? Which is that Cripps can go forward, Kennedy can go forward, Chera can go to a wing, Walsh can go to a wing, Hewitt can't really go to a wing or forward or anything like that. So I think we're seeing the CBAs somewhat play out with what we expected, which is Chera and Walsh maybe to get a little bit less and play more wing spot, and then you have the other 3 kind of as the main ones rotating through there.
I think probably if there was a stat that someone could do of how all their centre bounces and stoppages have gone. We've watched a little bit of Carlton because we're Hewitt owners and you guys are Cripps owners, and everyone probably watching has. Cripps gets the first possession, he handballs out the back to Hewitt, and he hits one of Chera or Walsh for a kick. Like that has probably happened the large majority of the time. So it's working well for him, and that's probably how it's going to continue.
And their fixture, we've said this before, we said it last week, continues to be easy going forward. They've got a lot of very good matchups. Yeah. I
think Steele and Walsh have the first buy, which is still a way away, but I feel like might as well target them post-buy, but it might just depend on the price. Steele's coming down a fair bit. Want to see a bit more from him before bringing him in, but I'd be shocked if he didn't have a bit of an uptick in his scoring, because his marks are almost half of what they were last year, but it's only 3 games in. So one to keep an eye on. But yeah, I think for me, whoever gets tagged in round 5 by Ash, assuming that's what Liam Cameron does out of Petrarca and Oliver, I think I want a D's mid, get one of those 2 in. Maybe Brayshaw if he's at the right price, because he's going to cop a tag as well. But last year I just remember his time and ground dropping as the year went on, right as when I brought him in. So I do think it's a bit more real though this year. I think he's gone up a notch. And there's one more midfielder we really need to speak about, and that is one Thomas Green. So remember when AFL draft expert was speaking about him. He said he was like the best first possession winner or the best contested ball winner at juniors that he'd ever seen, something like that. And it was more of a matter of when, not if, with Tom Green. Honestly, I can't. It's how are you supposed to know if he can sustain this or not? I think the CBAs aren't super high, but he's still doing super well. But yes, tweeted straight away within the first half of watching him in round one. I thought, like, holy smokes, this guy's unbelievable. He's just dominating. I think his average is nearly 130, something like that.
Yeah, it's third highest in the game.
Yeah, he's still 500k. I'll pass on Tom Green. I think I've gone for Cripps, but yeah, I just don't know if he can sustain it or not. And he does have hamstring history late last year, if that counts for anything. I think no one seems to care about durability at this point. We just need a plan for upside, well, for the most part anyway. But JD, any interest in Tom Green?
Yeah, so just on his CBAs, 53 and 45 in the first two, then ticked up to 67. So that's, I think, a good sign that he's trending positively in that direction. But they took some of the others out to accommodate for the tag. I do have interest in Tom Green, especially if I had a time travel machine. Can you imagine starting Cripps, Green, and Rao in your midfield, as well as like Neil? If you just ultimate value this year and it all's worked out. I think the hard part with Green is that, yeah, who do you trade to get him in now? It doesn't really seem realistic for a lot of people. Then he hasn't done it before, like Cripps. So if you were, say, bringing in one of these this week, I'd still pick Cripps over Green just because Cripps has the history, Green doesn't. And then, yeah, Green's like coached by Leon Cameron. So that's bad.
That's true.
Yeah, that's bad. And then maybe to your other point, which is that GWS have that first buy. So if you are considering that, maybe wait. He'll be obviously priced a bit more, but you'll have 10 weeks, 11 weeks worth of data, and you can bring him after his first buy if you were really keen. I think like the other part is GWS have been really up and down so far. So, and they haven't looked particularly good. So I don't know if things change in their team which affect him throughout the year, and whether someone like Toby Green coming back actually affects him just because they have others like Taranto and stuff that they want to put through the midfield more as well.
I believe Hopper's out at the moment too.
Yes, and that is a big one.
So who knows?
Yeah, because he was 56% of CBA's round one, and then nothing for last two.
Yep.
Yeah. Still, I think he actually will keep it up for the most part. Not 130, but I think he can go 110 plus.
Yep.
So rather than go to the rucks, we're in the rookie section. We'll speak about Braden Pruce. I think he'll be a big topic this week. We'll worry about that after. And then Tim English we're going to speak about in the forward. So we'll move on to the forward line. And, most of the players that are getting DPP, apart from Pendlebury, I think the more relevant ones will be in the forward line. So first, I'm going to think I have my top 6 right now listed out. I'll see if you guys agree, disagree, anyone else you would have in here. And then we'll discuss if any potential DPPs can make their way in. So from looking at the forward line, Dunkley, English, Heaney, Taranto, Cogs, Butters. I potentially get Lipinski. I'm one of the 1 in a million who own Lipinski, but he could get forward status. But out of these 6, do you see any other player currently that's not a forward taking their spot? And what do you think?
Currently not a forward? Can we also pick forwards?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Go for it, JD.
Okay, so I think there's 3 omissions that are worth at least a discussion. So Jordan Degoey is one that I'll bring up, and like George is already seething just at the mention.
Not seething. I don't think he's going to go on.
But yeah, so Degoey's led Collingwood for CBAs over the first 3 rounds. So he, I think, is someone that at least needs to be considered. We love going for people that get lots of CBAs, and that's Degoey. At the moment, he's playing a lot of midfield time. And we saw him score reasonably well in the back half of last year with that. So I think that's someone that we can't rule out so far. Secondly, I would put in Treloar, who is someone that we won't realistically pick just because of the hamstring history. He's gone 98 over the first 3. His very first game, I think, was like a 76, but then he's gone 100 since then, like 114 and 10 something. So he's one that I definitely still have in for consideration. And then the last one is Duncan, who was one of the top price players last year. He has started poorly this year and is going to drop a lot of cash. But I think there is potentially some point in the year where he becomes relevant once he's got some match fitness and is someone that maybe from here to the end of the year isn't top 6, but in 7 or 8 weeks' time, when you're looking to upgrade to your last forward, he might be one of the top 6 from there till the end of the year.
Okay. Any of those 3 extras, Duncan, Treloar, Degoey, take your fancy over the 6 I listed?
No, I think, to be honest, you've got it nailed so far, but I think we'll move on to ones that don't have forward status, and the number 1 man is Shrek, mate. He's going to get it. He's going to bloody get it. You guys are going to have to get him, or don't, or just sit back and just get absolutely punished by the 150s. But nah, he's played like 60% forward the 1 game he's played at the 3. If he even gets up this week, that's, he's only got 2 more games to try and reverse that. So he'd have to get Meek out of the team, or come in for Meek and play majority ruck to probably swing that the other way. So he's pretty much going to get forward, and then it just comes down to how much you trust his durability, which I don't think anyone here really does.
So
okay,
he needs to play 3 games to get forward. Yeah, so he's got to play the next 2.
Yeah. Oh, did we find that out? Did you not tell me?
Sorry, I didn't know you didn't know.
No,
I think this is what happened with fantasy.
So he has to get up this week then. Okay.
Yeah, they have to play 3 out of the first 5 to be eligible for the DPP swap. So yeah, he needs to get up this week and make it through and play a whole second week, which is, I don't know, probably not odds on money at the moment. But assuming he does, it looks like he could be forward, and that basically makes him, I think, a pretty obvious top 6 of mine once he gets up and running. We saw him last year, just insane ceiling, insane ability to score, and someone that you'd be looking to bring in, especially given that he is going to potentially drop some money just given the slow start this year and playing more forward.
Okay, I want to go back 2 minutes to the 3 you listed: Duncan, Degoey, and Treloar. I don't care. I don't care about Treloar. He's too many hamstrings and calves. Yeah, and his role might not always be the same. Duncan, I care even less about. His durability is probably worse at this point in his career. I just feel like I don't have English in Toronto right now. I think they can outscore Duncan plus not do their hamstrings. Then the other one is Degoey. So Degoey, I think, is a decent case for. I think his marks are down 3 on what it is currently versus what it was when he was in the midfield last year. So it is a different game style. I don't fully trust Degoey yet. He's played weak midfields, played the Crows, St Kilda. Geelong's midfield's okay. He didn't score super well. He missed a lot of shots on goal. And I think his forward time might be more some weeks. I think CBAs were good this week, though. But I did feel like...
Yes. Yeah, I think...
he's had a lot of shots on goal. So...
I think it was a little bit less than last week, so just 62%.
Okay, so he was a bit more forward.
Yeah, a bit more than the last couple.
I don't understand why you'd take Degoey over the other 6, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I like your 6. I think if I had to pick 6, I'd probably land on the same 6, and Degoey would be the 7th. Which is where I have it. But it's worth just listing out Degoey as a real option because in all likelihood, like Dunkley, Heaney, I think, Cornelio, Butters, and even to an extent like Taranto have all had injury history. So the likelihood that those 6 are all injury-free from here to the end of the year, I'd say is like somewhat low, which means we probably need to think about who would be 7th or 8th. So when we have to swap, if we have to swap them, we're ready to trade someone in.
Yeah.
Okay. So back to DPP. So we've already gone over...
I knew you hated them, George, so I just moved on.
You got to let me tell them.
Yeah,
tell
I know
everyone
you
that I
want
hate
a
them.
reason just to say bad things.
Okay, so the first one we have listed here is Bailey Smith, currently on 55% CBAs, which is a lot for Baz, but playing off a bit half forward as well. I don't know if it's still 3 rounds in, but given the CBAs, you would think that he's a decent chance to get forward status. I like the look of him this year.
I would say there's almost 0 chance because when he's not in the middle, he's on the wing, right? I would imagine. I'd be really surprised if he's starting forward that much.
I guess potentially. I guess we don't know till another 2 rounds, but he's played really, really well in the guts. I think his run and carry is really useful. When he gets the ball, he runs 30, kicks 50. It's a meters game player. I think he's really useful for them. again, I don't know if the CBAs are sustainable with him, given how many players. Like they even put McRae on a wing for a quarter. So I don't know what the plan is with Beveris. I think maybe one to hold off on for now. But I think he'll be reasonable if we get him.
Mm-hmm.
Next player is Libba. Currently was pure half forward in week 1 from memory and has moved into the guts, but still overall 22% CBAs. Any interest in Libba,
Well, I guess once he gets, if he does get the DPP, if he looks to be back in the midfield like he was, majority last year, can't think what he averaged up the top of my head, but obviously I think it was around 100. So that's looking around top 6. Obviously you have to wait for the landscape and who else does to judge that, but that would be definitely around the mark. But yeah, we'd have to see him get put back into majority midfield before we would be trading him in.
Yeah, so 103.2 last year, but yes, to your point, as a majority centre stoppage midfielder. So he'd need to become eligible, and then injuries or changing game plan or whatever actually force him up into the ball, and then he might become a relevant option for us.
Yep, one to look at players later. Yeah. Next one is Tom Mitchell, 57% CBAs. I don't know if he gets forward status, but definitely playing off half forward a bit more, like he was a little bit last year, but more so this year. Less CBAs than Ward, I think, which is interesting.
So the first 2 weeks he was ahead of Ward. It was this week that it kind of inverted and Ward took a bunch and Mitchell took a step back.
So he's averaging 82 at the moment. Again, we still don't know if he's carrying something from his early season groin complaint. I'm not comfortable touching Tom Mitchell until I see a block of form.
Agree? I think that's always been the case with him. So kind of,
It's the exact same conversation we had last year, and then unfortunately just didn't time the block of form, because if you had him after the buys, he was really good. But I think he's an easy pass at the moment. I'd be surprised if he became eligible, but even if he was, I don't think you want him at the moment.
Yep. The next player, currently a top 15 midfielder, one Patrice Lopinski.
Hold on, I think this calls for an update. What's the bet at? Because Lipinski, 100? No, he got scaled down. George's probably flat about that.
That ruined my weekend.
They scored about the same, right? So it might be tight.
He scored 104. Rao scored 103. So Lipinski takes it by a point this week.
It's 107 average to 110. So I think it's about probably 8 or 9 points the difference.
Yeah.
I
won the week with small wins.
I thought I was going to lose that bet, and I'm feeling okay about it at the moment. We'll see.
I mean,
Dylan Shield, don't worry about him.
Which is who you originally made the bet with, by the way. But Shield's traveling right as well. Like he's going at 100, so it's not like he's that far off the mark at the moment either.
Well, at least I got 2 players to fall back on then.
Yeah.
But okay, Lipinski 32% CBAs. Plays off half forward, but just go straight in the midfield. I guess I've been watching him, so he's basically, his running power is so good that he just does whatever the hell he wants. His opponent, a lot of the time he doesn't have an opponent on him. He just moves up and down the ground. He puts himself in good positions to receive the ball, to be damaging. I think his contested game isn't quite there yet. Hopefully he gets there one day. I know he's worked hard on it, but it just wasn't there on the weekend. Okay, so Pat Lipinski's he's 430K in 2 weeks, 440K. Any interest in him if he's a forward, hypothetical? Say JD.
Yeah, so I'll say no for now. I think what's worrying is that he's gone 48, 38, 22 in CBAs, like percentage. So we've seen a steady decline. I think the reason why he's really likely to get forward status is with Degoey out for a week. Maybe he's playing more forward. Although, I don't know. I mean, Degoey's been on the ball a lot. Maybe it puts Lipinski more on the ball.
Yeah, I think that's more likely.
So it might actually put him further away. So I don't know. This is a tough one. It's just hard because he's quite down the pecking order in the Collingwood midfield. And even though he does lots of the other stuff really well, it just feels like we're going to have options that are slightly better. And Pat Lip kind of ends up around that 95 to 100 range, where it does really feel like a year where you're looking for 100 plus average out of your forwards.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think I agree. Just probably we'll sit just outside or a little bit outside where we need to be once all the others get, or whoever gets forward status. So, yeah, assess it later on.
Yeah, I think at that point, by the time he's that price, you might as well pay an extra, I don't know, 80K for Taranto or something. Yeah, see how it goes, though. I'm okay with the pick for now. So moving on to Brad Crouch, 49%. I think he's averaging 113, playing really well this year. He's always been capable of good average. I think his disposal's been okay this year. In the past, it's been poor. I don't know if it stays good for the rest of the year. Had some durability issues in the past, but he is capable of playing every game. I guess this is one where we can assess down the track, probably a post-buy, but yeah, maybe he's more unlikely to get forward. It is up to 49% CBAs, but I think, we'll cross that bridge when it comes, but worth mentioning. And next one, we have Chad Warner, 52% CBAs. I think the first week was down, only played the 2 games, so he's been really, really good. 150 in the preseason as well. I know his junior numbers were like off the charts, like 150 average in whatever junior league he's in. I think he's worth watching as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine him getting it, but he would be someone I'd be really keen on. I think he's going to be a very, very, very good player.
Yep. And then last one is Ron Marshall, currently 57%. I'm not really impressed with him so far. Had a good game 1. Last 2 games, and not great. I think people kind of want to get rid of him for English at R2 at the moment because he's probably not going to be a ruck keeper, but he's capable though. And they're playing I don't think Hayes got any ruck time, so it's still playing with the 2 tolls. The 2 ruckmen really. Hayes is not rucking, so maybe he gets forward. I think just assess down the track.
Yeah. So he started out like 87% CBAs week 1, then 52% splitting with Hayes. And then week 3, it's just him and Ryder, and he's gone down to 34%. So he is definitely losing ruck time over each of the first 3 weeks, which means maybe he's carrying something. Is my only thought, because he hasn't looked right. He's getting less ruck time, which just like to a level which doesn't make sense. Ryder's just coming back from lots of injuries. You would think that they would ease him into that ruck 1 role rather than just, smash him with it first week up. So yeah, I think there's a chance he both gets forward status, and he's also not relevant until something happens to Ryder.
I think the CBA thing, like Ryder's clearly the better ruckman of the 2 in the centre bounce with the throw up and the run up and everything. Like he's the guy for that. So I think that skews the CBA numbers a bit. Maybe it's closer to 50-50 around the ground, stuff like that. But look, if he plays the next 2 games with Ryder, he probably gets forward status, and then assess later on in the year when Ryder inevitably goes down with something, and then Rowan gets the ruck 1 again like he did a few years ago and can dominate.
I think it's a good point. Just see how Ryder goes, see how his health goes. And then the last one we have is not a forward, but Pendlebury's averaging 105 down back. A bit in the midfield as well. He is old, 34, 35. I already have Hole, who's old-ish, 31. I'm not really interested in Pendlebury. I can see him doing well. He's played well so far. I'm not interested, to be honest. Any interest in Pendles if he gets defender status, which it looks like he will?
No, I don't think there will be either, mate. It's the durability. He's had a lot of injuries in the last couple of years, and the ones that keep popping up too. Like they're not just little ones that go away. Like he's had a repeated leg injury, and he just seems to be picking them up nowadays. So yeah, to trade someone in and trust him to play out 15 or so games, it's probably unlikely. Maybe the old late season swap for an injury in the last 3 or 4 rounds, you could consider it, but yeah, that's about the only time I would, I think.
Same, JD.
Yeah, he's already not really value anymore, being over 500k. I think the only thing that's interesting to watch on Pendles is that they've had 2 wins and a close game so far, and his scoring's progressively gone up. So it was a 88 in the first week, a 105 in the second week, and then he went 124 this week. So it's kind of progressively gotten up as the games got closer. I wonder if they start getting into harder or more even games, if we do see more elevated scoring than what we've already seen so far. So while he's at a 105 average, maybe you could push 110, 115. if Collingwood start having more close games. And if that's the case, then I guess he is an option right up there with Short and Hall at the moment, just because the scoring potential is so crazy, even if his age and injuries means it's a pick we'd normally avoid.
Yeah, he's been legendary for Supercoach for many years, so can't write the man off ever. But
I mean, if Zeeble can do it, why not Pendles?
Yeah, I think there's about 3 years age difference, so but see how he goes. Maybe you'll look at him like as the last one post buy. We'll see. Okay, we'll move on to the rookies now. So I think probably the main trade this week is if you don't have Nick Martin, 100% grab him. He's at negative 124 break even. You might need to make a tough call on, I want to say Rioli, because Rochelle's still got money to make, but somebody has to go for Nick Martin.
It's probably Dixon or Hayes, isn't it? Like people are probably tossing up between those two.
I know. I think Rioli out's good. I think Rioli out is fine. So just going through the Rioli out. So he's got more money to make. Let's not get it wrong. But he does have a reasonably high break even with a 42 this week, just because he scored poorly last week. Although you could see him kind of bouncing back against Essendon and scoring well. And he's at 230k. So if you're trading him to Nick Martin, you're banking 130k now. And then Nick Martin should make 200k pretty easily. So that's 330k. If a trade's worth 150k, then it would mean Rioli would need to make it more than 180k from here to when you trade him out for that not to have been worth it. I just can't see that happening. Plus, if you're fielding this rookie at F6 at the moment, I would rather have Martin on field than Rioli. I think that's just safer floor with your points. So if the only thing that was wrong with your team is you didn't have Nick Martin and Rioli was your only option, I actually think that's okay to trade out. But yeah, maybe there's better options in Hayes or Dixon. Do you want to run us through those, Enno?
I mean, I guess if they get dropped, like Dixon actually put up a decent score as a second ruck this week, but yeah, who knows what's going to happen when they get players back. I mean, half their side's out every week. So if he gets dropped, I think if Dixon gets dropped, he's tradable. I think if Hayes gets dropped, I'd be tempted to still hold on to him just because of how injury prone even both of them are. Rowan's had a bit of injury history too. Hayes could come back in, a month's time or something and then still make some really, really good cash. So you could just use him as a loop. So I think Dixon would be the one. If he gets dropped, I'd prefer to trade out. Yeah, I mean, if they all play, that's the hard part. Is that when you go down the Rioli pathway? I don't know. What do you reckon, George?
I think hold both. I think I'd actually trade Rioli out. Look, if Hayes is dropped, Hayes will come back and make more money. Dixon played well, and he's still 102. He's got cash to make. He can get to 250. I think he was good on the weekend. Yeah, Bailey Williams isn't much. So with Nick Nat, maybe I think Dixon can be the second ruck for a bit. I'm not too sure. I don't want to trade Dixon. I'd probably trade Rioli out of those three, to be honest. I don't know if Hayes plays or not. We'll see. Yeah.
I don't know Rioli, and I still can see he has another big score in him at some point, but it could be in 10 weeks' time instead of 3. Yeah. So
I mean, he was on 50, and then he gave away a 50. He was kind of unlucky. Came from behind, chasing his man, but was a bit too far behind. So, anyway, had 20 touches against Collingwood, so I think he can get to low 300s. Just needs to kickstart that score again.
Just a fourth option then. So Dill Stevens in the midfield. If you've got Rioli, you could obviously trade out Stevens and then put Rioli into the midfield. He had just the 23 on the weekend, has gone up to 202 in terms of price and is sitting at a break even of 2 because he still has last week's 95. Would you consider Stevens over Rioli as a trade out?
Only if he gets dropped.
Yes, only if he gets dropped. Obviously don't want to trade anyone here, but Nick Martin has to come in. But yes, I would, because Rioli's not going to lose his spot. Dill Stevens could.
Yeah. If Stevens loses his spot, then I think that's an easy decision. If he was to hold, would you still rather trade out Rioli than Stevens? Yeah, it's not an easy pick. I mean,
sure.
So what's the answer? They're all picked. What's the answer?
Yeah, and this is realistically, there are some teams that are in this situation. This is the only thing they need to do. They need to bring in Nick Martin, and they might have a situation where they've got a full team playing. So, would you trade out Stevens or Rioli if it came down to this?
I think Rioli has the least potential more money to make. I think it's Rioli. I can see Rioli making another 100, but I can see Stevens also making another 100. I can see Hayes coming back, having a big game if that happens.
Yeah.
Because remember, in round 1, Hayes' big game, he wasn't ruck in that game. It was like 12% ruck or something.
So, it's something you've talked about a lot, George, but the Swans fixture. So, if Dill Stevens holds, they've got, North, then they've got West Coast,
and Hawthorn.
Hawks.
Hawks are okay, but...
Yeah, Hawks have been okay. But you could just see 3 really good weeks of potential scoring for someone playing on the wing.
I'll say Rioli because you're not going to field Rioli anymore because you've fielded probably Cherry, Brody, Nick Martin, 2 of those or 3 of those. I think it's Rioli. I'd hate to say it, and it could backfire, but someone's got to go, and at least you'll have Nick Martin, and everyone else will have him too. You don't want to be that guy without Nick Martin.
Yep.
It's a tough call, but it is what it is. Okay, next. I've lost complete track. Next one is Hugh Dixon. I don't think you bring him in now. Round 3, not really supposed to trade. So I wouldn't bring in Dixon, but he's okay. Hoff, don't bring in. Gollan should play. He had 4. Here's the thing with Gollan.
Dropped, George. Who's getting dropped for Tex?
Fogarty is gone, I think.
Yeah.
Or Fogarty. I'm not sure.
Himmelberg probably locked himself in.
For now, yeah. And then Thilthorpe has to come in soon enough.
All this weird, young, average key forward talent.
I mean, Thilthorpe's not in the team, isn't he?
Exactly. Well, he is going to be good, though. He's going to be good. But, yeah.
I hope so.
Weirdly, I did watch the Knicks presser because I was just trying to get some Dawson content. And Knicks did say, he's like, Texas look really good. He is coming in. It's just crazy. It's just going to create some hassle as to who has to miss out.
So it'll be next week. Fogarty will come out for Tex. I'm pretty sure. Himmelberg and Gollan have bought themselves a few weeks probably. So it'll be those 3. I don't think we run a 4th. Gollan, I think we should keep playing. I don't think he's necessary to bring in though. I think it just let it go. He had under 10 touches, but kicked 4 goals. Port were down key defenders. Skinner went down. They had no Aaliyah. So it was. Gollan's looked good though, so I think just let it go. Not going to hurt you if you don't have him, but I think he will play the next few weeks though. Be an okay rook. So just situation. Not much you can do about it. O'Driscoll was okay. I thought he had a few down patches and then did a bit for a small amount of time, then did nothing for a large amount of time. I'm not endorsing Gibcus to O'Driscoll. I think that's just about the only thing. Or like an Owens in the midfield to O'Driscoll. I didn't see enough, and I'm not sure how his job security is with. I don't know how far Sarong is away. I don't know how. I think Mundy will play this week. It sounds like, and then Erasmus I thought was better than O'Driscoll. I think it's one just. I like him. I think he's a pass though. Just not worth the trade.
So a few people downgraded to Skinner last week as it was one of their options to kind of make their other trades happen. If they need to trade him out this week, say Skinner's going to miss the next 2 months, is O'Driscoll the best option, or do you think just holding is better than trading to O'Driscoll?
Who's even on the horizon?
I'm not sure O'Driscoll's job security is good enough to bring him in. I think hold. I think he'll play a few maybe, but I just feel there's a few players that are ready to come in, and if Erasmus outperforms him again, then O'Driscoll is a sub risk as well.
Yep. To answer your question, and I think the only other defender rookie option is Jordan Boyd, who scored 36 for Carlton and probably doesn't have great job security with people to return. So yeah, it's either like trade to O'Driscoll or hold. I think if you have,
I would hold. I'm not sure Skinner's injuries that serious.
That bad anyway, yeah.
Wangadeen Malira as well, who's just played his second game, but I think he's gone 40. He's averaging 47 at 162 price tag, so it's not really a trade-in option either.
Class.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm seeing the last name Dow here. Thompson Dow.
Did you actually think
it was No. And
I think that was what they call humor, Enno.
Yeah, I
Thanks
just
for
was
playing.
surprised from George. Like he's the type of guy that's actually like just fuck that up. But sorry, George. Yeah, look, honestly, he's getting full-time mid. That's all it is, really. Like he's not played much footy at all for like 2 years. I heard Dimmer talking about it. 2020, there was no twos footy last year. Like he only played a few games. You won't be able to check in the VFL, but not a heap. What, he got subbed off last week at like during the third quarter or something. And then this week just played literally full-time mid. Like, what was he, JD? He was the number one midfielder.
I think he was leading.
CBA.
Yeah, so he had 62% last week and then 83% this week. Cochin was next best at 77 and then Bolton at 63.
I mean, I don't see why it doesn't continue. Like he's done well enough in the role. I think Preston is, due back soon-ish, but it's off a hammy and the bloke does them for fun. So he's gonna stick around there. Maybe not clear number one, but
last week's injury list had him at 1 week.
Yeah,
so
I just can't believe anything that it's
yeah,
down Prestia. But look, he's looked all right. It's definitely something to consider, but you got to be able to get up to 190k, and you got to have someone to get rid of, and that's the thing. Unless you got 90k sitting there and you're dumping a Machito Owens, then you're not trading out Rioli for him. You're not trading out any of these other guys for him. So that's the dilemma, really.
He's an interesting option that's come at the wrong time. I think the most pleasing thing as well is not someone that was on my radar whatsoever. But watching that game, there were periods where you just noticed him and you're like, oh, he's done another good thing. Oh, he's done another good thing. And like, that's really good because most of the time we're seriously watching the players that we own.
Yeah.
And like you analyzing everything. So to have him like not be someone that you're following, but just him stand out and just for positive reasons over and over is like, oh, wow. Like, he's actually like a really good consideration. I just think the timing is probably really wrong for Dow.
I just looked up his fantasy average. I don't have Supercoach numbers. Fantasy average last year was 73, and his NAB league numbers were quite low, 12 disposals a game. But I guess he can show some improvement. So doesn't give me enough confidence based on that. But he did look good.
The surname's always a red flag.
You might have 2 Dows at your club next year.
Oh, if we're looking for midfielders.
Isn't there a third Dow that's actually like tearing up the juniors?
Really? Like related? Who knows?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
See how it goes.
Go down that path again.
And then some more players we can speak about. So Reef McInnes just wait a week. He was good though. Neil Erasmus, wait a week. I think he holds though. He was okay. Disposal was a little off, and I think that's why. That's kind of what held him back a little bit. Is why he didn't debut earlier. But first game, I think he'll be good. And now big Braden Bruce, 109 on the weekend. This is interesting. So you are a Wits owner, JD, and you have Grundy.
Yes.
So there's two scenarios here. If you're like me, you have Hayes R2 because you're trying stuff, or you're in your case where you have like a Wits or a Gorn where you have to put him at R3. Start off with the R3 case. So are you looking to sideways say maybe Rioli or Stevens or something to get in Bruce next week at R3? Is that a move you're looking at, JD?
Yes. The reality is the scoring that we've seen makes Bruce very likely to generate a lot of cash for us based on the potential, and it also provides good cover in the rucks. So, yes, I think I'd be foolish not to consider bringing him in next week at R3.
And now for the Darcy owner.
Oh, man, he's got to come in.
If Darcy doesn't play this week, are you looking at the Bruce move?
Yeah, I got 40k and Hayes at R3, so I think I'd have to. I honestly thought about it this week, but obviously would have had to forego. Bowie to like an actual, O'Driscoll Skinner, so kind of avoided that one there in doing so. But I think even if Hayes plays, it's probably with the other rucks again and not really that appealing. So I'd just make the swap and sit Bruce there, and obviously only if Darcy doesn't play. But we've still got to look at getting him in 2 weeks if he keeps this up. I mean, he looked gassed by the third quarter. Like he was just barely running out there. I mean, he's a man mountain, but he got through all right. So
yeah, I guess the other thing.
Can you think he can get through continue games? That's like,
For you, Anna, when Darcy gets his DPP in round 6, he's going to be on your field. So yeah, I think you have to bring him in.
I mean, my thing, it's probably not worth speaking about, but like, yeah, the English Darcy swap later on. Like, if I get English 2, it's like, one of them's always playing at R2, and then obviously, maybe Bruce. But man, the ruck's it's just a lot different this year, isn't it?
Oh yes,
it's good.
Everything's a ruck.
It's good. It's good.
Like, there are teams.
Well, we get Cherry in 2 weeks, mate.
But there are teams that will genuinely have like 6 rucks across their forward ruck lines because you've got like, I don't know, for me, Grundy, Witt, you have Dixon, Hayes, then you got Cherry, and then you bring in Bruce as well. You got 6 rucks. And then you could have English, so you could actually get to 7. And it'd be a good team.
They need to swap that thing where it says rucks and forwards and just swap them around.
Yeah. So do you bring in Bruce a week early if you have Hayes R2? Can you help me?
Because asking the personal questions.
Yeah. So I mean, the general answer is right. You never go early on someone. You wait to see the 2 weeks. You wait for them to get to the bubble, and then you bring them in. So for that to change this week, you'd have to believe that Bruce has got really good job security, which I think from what we've seen so far is true. He got coaches' votes on the weekend, and he looked better than the first couple of weeks of GWS's ruck configuration. So I think that's true. And then like you're going to get significant points boost from doing this trade early, or like, it's going to help you facilitate things. And Hayes being the third ruck or potentially dropped, or Dixon, right? Like you're expecting 60s as the average. I think Bruce, you're expecting 90 probably on average. So you're getting 30 points probably this week doing it. Is that worth going early, the 30 points?
Probably more than that, to be honest.
It could be. It could be as much as 70 or 80.
I think I should wait. If they're named, I think I might just wait. I think Flynn will probably come in because if Darcy plays, it's
that's
Mick
what I was going to say.
Darcy.
They're playing each other, so
because they played Keith as a fourth line. What for? You got Flynn there. Anyway, I think even if like Bruce still scored well as splitting the ruck, I think he was mostly second ruck though in that Amy game. So ideally, I think I want to hold off for a week. If Hayes is dropped, I'll go early and probably regret it. But
what about if it's just Meek again and just Bruce on his own? Just they both solos.
I don't think that changes much. I still think he scores decently with or without Flynn. Okay. An interesting one though. But I think he will be a hot topic next week if he gets through unscathed. So, we have 2 more. Skinner, ankle injury, no reason to bring him in. Bo McQuarrie, any thoughts on him? I think you put that one in, JD.
Because he had an injury as well. I think he's like out 5 to 6 weeks. So it's just not real options. People might see them as having low break evens, but his hip means he's out for like a month. So, yep.
Before we get into Q&As on Twitter, we have captain options. I need help on this one because I'm struggling a little bit. And honestly, okay, first topic. Jake McRae plays fourth quarter, mostly wing, bit of half forward, like 1 or 2 CBAs. Do you captain McRae against Richmond? Anno, yes or no?
Is that the big C, the orange circle?
Yes.
I don't think so. I think the VC is the preferred option this week. The thing is,
Saturday night.
I know what loops have you got? So, see with me, I've still got Owens
potentially. Hayes potentially.
I've still got Owens because I don't have enough money to get. I didn't have Rioli, and there's no other real options to get. I already got Martin, blah blah blah. So I still have Owens, so it's an option for me, but probably not for many people. So. Yeah, I guess you're asking, do you put the C on him after VCing, I don't know, a D or Neil or something, but Neil doesn't really entice me. So, no, look, we leak so many points, he should be able to find the ball no matter where he plays. So, I'd be okay with it.
I think Dunkley I prefer this week.
Yeah.
I just want to see McRae go in the mids. What are your plans, Jackson?
So I currently have Neil as the vice captain, into McRae as the captain, but I haven't thought about this too much. I mean, I think Cripps against Gold Coast is somewhat interesting. I think Took Miller against Carlton is somewhat interesting. Dunkley, might be the preferred over McRae, and then Neil, I think, can have a good bounce back game, but I just don't know realistically what the ceiling is against someone like Geelong. It's just I've got the vice captaincy there in case Stevens or Dixon go out, which is like potential other loops. If I had Hayes as my loophole, then I think it would be vice captain one of the Dogs, probably Dunkley for upside, into captaincy one of the others. There's another left field option. There's a couple left field options, like filled with optimism.
Lipinski versus West Coast. I knew you were going to say that.
I was going to say Crisp against West Coast for.
No, you did not say that.
This is all glory here. We're going for Crisp absolute ceiling of a 150 this week against West Coast. Guys, what do we think? Vice captain. On a more serious note, the Melbourne players, I think, are a good option again. So the Thursday night game against Port. So for those that have Oliver and Petrarca, I think they're both good vice captaincy options again this week. Otherwise, there's not really a ton to look at. It seems a harder week to predict than some of the others.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Watch out for Mark O'Connor. If anybody gets named, stay the hell away from Neil.
Yeah.
Andre Mahaney, George, come on. You got it on there right now?
Yes, I'll do that.
Yeah. He's
I've been waiting 3 weeks for this game. Isaac versus North. Save me, please. That's all I got to say about that.
Oh, man.
I think I'll probably end up going Neil into Dunkley, I think.
I've got a good feeling about Steele this week as well against the Hawks. I don't know, it just feels like he'd match up favorably against them and could potentially go quite crazy in a close game. Obviously with the start to the year, I think it's pretty hard to actually trust him with your C, but I don't know. There's just like a feeling that could be all right.
I think definitely Neil. I know you're not sure you like it, but I think Neil VC for me, and then probably Dunkley C.
Just PTSD. You didn't have him last year when in that game.
No. Anyway,
he got absolutely just blanketed.
Fortunately, didn't have him. Anyway, move on to Twitter questions. So you guys are going to answer these, and we'll alternate. How about that? Nathan, meet JD. Trade Jack Crisp.
No.
Jonas asks, if Bruce goes well again this week, will it be a must-have?
I mean, yes. If he goes well and is selected in the third game, yes, he definitely is.
Nikki Tyrell asks, who should be captain this week? We just spoke about it. I think VC Neil, and then VC Oliver, and then pick someone. Shah asks, is it worth trading Rioli to Brody? JD.
I don't think so. It's tricky because you're going to get on-field points by doing this, presumably. So if you're fielding Rioli, then going to Brody, you get on-field points. I think from a money-making perspective, it doesn't make sense. So it's just whether you believe that the extra cash you might make plus the points on field make it worthwhile. And if you haven't traded much till this point, say you're still sitting on 35, 34 trades, I think you probably could do it as a quite aggressive move. But for most people, it wouldn't make sense. And there's also not a ton sitting there with, I don't know, what is it, like 60, 70K or whatever it is you need to do Rioli to Brody. But if for whatever reason those other circumstances lined up, then yeah, you could look at that as an option.
Yep. Next question from Skeet. Does Gawn to English make sense? If you think English will be top 6 forward?
I think it does to an extent.
But bank 80K.
It's not enough actually. Now that it's 80K, nah, not for me. Not for me. You got Gawn still hold on to him.
Yep. Theo asks, rank these 3 mids in order as upgrade targets. Callum Mills, Josh Kelly, Marcus Bontempelli. JD.
Oh, this is actually hard. I would love to hear what you guys think about this as well. So I think I'd have Bont last at the moment just because the role isn't there. He does seem to go on a crazy patch each year, but I just don't think we're there at that point at the moment. And maybe we need another injury or something to happen to really see him kind of get back to his scoring height. So he'd be 3 for me. And then Kelly had, I think, a really poor week. He's taken a step back in the midfield with GWS, especially with Green kind of emerging as someone. Taranto's actually been really good in there this year, and then you've got Cogs back at his best. So I can't see Jelly actually reaching his ceiling, and then that would just through process elimination have Mills at 1 for me. Maybe I'd have Kelly last of those. I'd probably maybe have Bont second, but yeah, Mills would be the only. Mills is probably the only one I'd strongly consider at the moment.
I'd pick someone not injured at the moment. Jelly's probably going to hurt himself at some point. Bont's okay. Callum has dodgy Achilles. He's a no for me.
I mean, as unimpressive as Bont's been, I still think he's gone 100 in each of his games so far and is at 106 average at the moment. So,
yeah.
I think only Bont I'd look at for now. Thoughts on missing rookies after the first price jump? I missed Hinge. So is Hinge still worth it? You know.
So you got to always think who's coming out, but 230k, negative 37. I really liked him. I really liked his game. He kicks well. He's got a really good role. So that's tough. Like, what are you paying up to get him? Who are you going from? I think it's too late. To be trading in someone like him, but I still think he can rate really, really good money. That's the issue here. He can average. What do you reckon? Yeah, he can average. 80s.
Yeah,
if he's going to average 80s, then he's probably still at it's this week where he could still make 150k.
That's why I couldn't answer that one so easily.
But yeah, it's who are you trading out? Because it doesn't make sense to trade out McCartan or probably even Gibcus.
That's why so it's Gibcus, I guess. You went for him instead of Hinge for whatever reason. So I think about that.
I'd do it if you need him on field. Like if you're fielding SDK or Gibcus, I'd do it. Otherwise, no.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question from Matthew English. Thoughts on trading Rioli to Thompson Dow?
Hey, we've talked about Thompson Dow, but I don't think that his job security or scoring potential is enough that you get rid of Rioli. I just don't think it's going to be worth the trade in the end, even if he does make slightly more money from here.
Yep. SC Hawk, who is your first upgrade target in the midfield specifically? So go through all of us, name one name, even though we spoke about this before.
For me, it's got to be one of the Demon boys, but they got to drop first. I'll say Oliver.
Yeah. Agree. Same. JD.
Oh, just to be different, let's say Brayshaw drops a 50 this week and I'm picking him up in a couple of weeks.
Cool.
Deja vu.
Supercoach MC, if you did not start Rao, is it a priority to bring him in?
Oh.
Who are we up to on this one?
I think it's you, but I don't think it is a super priority.
I don't think he's a keeper, which means that you don't need to bring him in. He's just going to be a luxury last upgrade for those that already have him. He'll probably make another 100k from here. Yeah, maybe a bit more than that. But yeah, it's if you could, I don't know, say you had 100k and you could go Berry to Rao, it's interesting to consider that just because the on-field points you get. But yeah, it's not a priority bringing for me anymore.
Yep. FPL Adriano, I need a gun defender. I have lots of money. Pick one of Stewart, Lloyd, Hall, or Dawson.
I'll tell him to get Cancelo just because Manchester City's run's really good. Wasn't he an FPL guy?
FPL in his name, yeah.
Tom Stewart, I think for me, he's still got 130 break even after he's just tonned up 3 times in a row, only barely scraped past. So with another ton, it's projected he drops another 15k, so he'd be about 550. So I think for me, he, as an owner, I think he'd, be the one you guys who don't have him should be looking at.
Then go through everyone here. JD, it was Lloyd, Stewart, Hall, Dawson. Pick one.
So Stewart for consistency, Hall for upside, Dawson because you're a madman that likes to have fun. So let's go Dawson.
Okay. I picked Aaron Holt, and I kind of feel sick about it, to be honest. I don't know why I did it. I just want points, and I feel like it just feels wrong to trade him in. I don't know what it is, but I don't know. Go Lloyd. Lloyd's probably lowest upside, but safest.
I think honestly, I'd probably pick Stewart.
Yeah. Caleb asks, I think it's Eno now. If you have all the key rookies there, would there be no need to trade this round?
Correct. Like me, mate. We hold.
Is it too late to jump on Brody? Toggles up, CBAs are there. Worth jumping from MyGov to Brody.
Should have happened last week. So is it still worthwhile doing that?
Yes.
I think it is. It only costs about 30, 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait. So is trading in Brody better than trading in, I don't know, say Dow?
Yes.
Because it's 90K more expensive. I guess there's points on fields as well. Yeah, you could probably just do Brody.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Tom Green, possible keeper? We spoke about Tom Green earlier in the pod, so I think we'll skip that. Supercoach fella, Chris to Bowie, then Rioli to English, or save the trades. Noting Chris plays at Eagles this week, could score well.
I don't hate it, but it's just not. You don't need to be trading, and you're getting Bowie a bit late. And
yeah,
I think this is just his way of trying to fund English. Which, yeah, I mean he's looking good, the pinhead, but
yeah, that's the type of trade that has disaster written all over it. Because Bowie's already made his 60K off his first week. It's the type of trade you do. Then Bowie drops a 60 and kills his cash gen, and then English has a bad week or something. Yeah, and then you hate yourself for burning 2 trades for no gaining points.
Yep. Magic Gnome asks, which less common cash gen player is okay to jump on late? Naish, Cordwell, and Lipinski. Would you jump on any of these 3 this week?
It's pretty funny how Naish has become somewhat relevant. I mean, I own him in the Dream Team, and he's been really good. It's just what is going on, but he's obviously got lucky with the job security. You can't be jumping. I mean, what's he, 240? Nah, you're not really jumping on any of these guys.
No. Naish should be probably the best of the 3, unless Caldwell gets forward status, in which case, I don't know, maybe him.
Yeah,
yep.
Wouldn't be looking at them.
Marshall to English, Owens to Dixon. Yes or no? Okay, Marshall to English. Both of you, yes or no?
Yes.
I think he has to fund it. That's the thing.
Yep, and then Owens to Dixon.
I mean, yeah, and I'm assuming he's asking that, yeah, George, because he has to fund it, right? Because English is a little bit more than Marshall. So, yeah, I think that's really good.
Yep.
Especially I think you're assuming Dixon gets named, in which case, yeah, it's fine.
Josh Pavat, this is for you, Eno. Last I heard, Eno still has Darcy in the rucks. Just wondering what he's going to do if he's not named. Will he keep holding at this point?
I'll just watch highlights and wait for him to come back next week.
Yep. Daily Pit asked to get Nick Martin in. Yes. We'll read this one out. Boylebs asks, is Alex Neil Bullen an upgrade target in round 6 when he bottoms out?
Come on, player. I think he wanted to bait people into bringing him in, and then he averaged 90 something the first 3 weeks, and then he drops a 40. So if he baited anyone out there on Twitter,
Blair, this is the last airtime you get. Please shut up about Neil Bullen.
Okay, you need to pick a more interesting, more obscure player next week.
Yeah. Next question from Will Stanfield. Marshall down to Bruce and then Rioli to English.
Can you do anything else? I guess he can't get Marshall to English, can he? So he has to do something else.
More points on field.
Yeah. And then you have, English that can play R2 Cherry in a couple of weeks. I don't hate it.
I think it's fine. It's a trade. It feels like it could wait another week, but yeah, I think it's fine.
Last question from Barnes. Do we continue to ride out the Gorn Grundy while they elite cash? Options are Gorn to English or Gawn to Bruce? Would you do one of those?
I think you just have to ride the wave at this point. You've kept them past round 3.
I don't understand trading Gawn this round. We haven't talked about it all, but if you didn't trade him after his first 2 games, he's already dropped 40k, and then he put out his best score for the year. Like, why would you trade him now if you weren't going to trade him after the first 2 weeks? You only saw good things this week, and you've already lost a lot of the cash that people were worried about losing. Why would you That's so confusing to me that you would change after holding for 2 weeks.
It's English, man. It's what some tall albino can do to people. They are doing anything to get him.
Yeah, the only reason why I would trade Gawn is to get Heaney's 250 this week via DPP.
If he actually goes 250 and George has like Vice on him and me, dude, I don't think I'll turn up to the pod next week.
Well, and
I'll be here with you, George.
Yeah,
I'll be here with you, mate.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I actually don't think I could stomach that for a week.
Yeah. Anyway, that is it for the podcast for round 3. We'll be back for round 4. We got our weekly videos up. We're on Spotify. We're on SoundCloud. People keep asking me for iTunes. My iTunes is corrupted. When I try and reinstall it, I will need to find someone else's computer and then install it. So I'm very sorry. I will try to get around to getting us on Apple. But nonetheless,
another one thing, the Perfect 9, if anyone of the older people that played Supercoach back in the day, that's running in the Discord. So only been 1 week of that because it sort of couldn't function the first couple of weeks. So I don't think the leader's on 2. So bit of fun. Used to be pretty fun back in the day. It's pretty much impossible to get. So, but it's still a bit of fun. So
I think the prize is $1 million.
Yeah. We're paying that, or
I don't know where it's coming from. Anyway,
was that like one of those currencies where like the conversion rate's like
yes,
like a million to like $10 or something. Yeah,
Uganda dollars or something. Anyway, join us on Discord as well. Discord's 2,000 members now, 3.5 million messages. It's been good. Anyway, signing off. Enno, pleasure as always.
See you, George. Let's get that 6-goal haul from Isaac.
Only 6, more than that.
I mean, first quarter.
Yes. JD, pleasure as always.
Pleasure. I guess in addition to not being able to watch Will Brodie, I can't watch a Swans game this week. So already the man of matches I'm watching a week is going down. But yeah, thanks for the chat. It was a good one this week.
Yeah, negative pods. We don't watch those games. Anyway, thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you guys next week.